Hello, Kathleen. Oh, good. Leanne is here as well. Welcome, Leanne. It's good to see people from upstate New York here as well. Hello, Becky. Welcome. We're going to give it a couple more minutes to let people trickle in. Usually they try to start signing on and start dealing with their tech issues right at the time that it starts. Hello, Monica. It's always fun to see names, people coming in. Hello, Krista. Welcome in. Hello, Mike. Zia. Hi, Ania. Good to see familiar names on here. Welcome, Jackie Farrison. Okay, we are 3 minutes after the hour. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to let Ryan keep admitting people as they come into the webinar. Thank you guys all for coming today to the Change Orders webinar in Vista. We're going to go through a few things here, and hopefully you learn a thing or two. And if I'm lucky, then you guys will also teach me a thing or two. This time, I have unmuted all the microphones. I've also allowed all of the I've allowed the mic for all of the attendees, and I've allowed the camera for all of the attendees. So feel free and turn on your microphone and your camera. If you're brave, you can also just post in the chat if you have any questions. If you have background noise, then Ryan will mute you, and you'll have to raise your hand in order to ask your question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Right here. And you guys should be able to see my northern lights. And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So welcome to the Change Order webinar again. I'm glad to see all you guys here, a bunch of familiar names and people that I've worked with for many years. It's nice to see you again, even if I only get to see your name and not your face with your camera on. We're going to go ahead with our agenda here. Agenda. Today, the first thing, as usual, we're going to go through with our whiteboard, ARD, and we're going to just describe how change orders work as a general overview. So it'll just be a whiteboard overview. Then we're going to get into Vista proper, and we're going to demonstrate a few things. Number one, we're going to demonstrate how a PCO or pending change order turns into an ACO and gets interfaced over to job cost. We're going to show how that is linked to subcontract change order. And then we're going to briefly talk about how change orders are, how they affect the job billings and how they affect the subcontract claims process. And then we are, like usual, going to open it up for questions and answers at the end. Note that you don't have to wait until the end to do your to ask your questions. Feel free and ask your questions at any time during this, and we will try to get to it as we can. If we can't get to it then, we'll get to it at the end, and some of the questions can be answered by Ryan and the others in the Silvertruck team that are here in chat as well. Please note that this is being recorded and the recording will be sent out afterward so that you can review this later, or for anybody who is watching this later after the fact because you weren't able to make it to today's webinar when it's live. Hello to you, and I'm glad that you're able to view this at least after the fact. All right, let's jump straight in with a little whiteboard demonstration about change orders. So before we can get into change orders, I need to review something that you guys that have been around my webinars have seen many times before, and that is the nature of the setup of jobs inside of Vista. We know by now that Vista has a very formal separation between the two things, the contract or the revenue, contract over here, contract, which holds our revenue and things dealing with the revenue, and our project, job, which holds our cost. Our contract is broken into contract items. Contract items, these are known in the industry as the schedule of values. This is how you are going to bill your how you're going to bill your customer, and we have dollar amounts here. We also have units of measure and that kind of stuff, and we end up with our total contract amount being the sum of all of our contract items. On the cost side, however, we have a little bit different breakout. We have phases, which is the phases that you guys have decided to track your job, how you've decided to track your job. Those are generally the same phases that you're bidding with, and these phases are broken into cost types, and the cost types hold our estimated cost, and we have all of our cost types on a particular phase, and all of our cost types across the whole job get to our actual cost that we're going to see on our full project. So we have this very formal separation between the revenue on one side and the cost on the other. Then if we drill into this cost a little bit, we're going to see a few different things. So once again, our cost is broken into phases. This is our standard job setup, which is broken into our cost types. I'm just going to go ahead and name those here. Typical ones are labor, equipment, I can correctly write, equipment, materials, subcontract, other costs, right? And you'll have, of course, you can set up different cost types in your particular case. The first thing that happens when you bid a job and you bring it into Vista is you get your what's known as your original estimate. And your original estimate has costs for all of these cost types that are associated with every single cost type, and you have your total here. What we're going to be talking about mostly today, I want a purple color. Here's my purple color. We're going to be talking about how the original estimate changes due to change orders. And when we add our change orders in, then we get what is called our current estimate. And our current estimate is our new estimated cost with the new change order added in. We're also going to talk about how the change orders affect specifically subcontractors and how it'll change our committed cost of our change orders. Of course, as you guys know, we also have the actual cost, and we have what is known as our projected cost. So any of you who are in the previous webinar will know about the actual cost and projected cost. We're not so concerned about actual cost and projected cost today. We're mostly concerned with everything prior to that. Okay, so that's the structure of the costing system in brief inside of Vista. We're mostly concerned with change orders. Now, of course, change orders don't only affect the cost side of things, they also affect the contract amounts up above. Another way to think about change orders is that change orders are simply a layer on top of the existing structure. So if I was to draw this little box again here, right? This is our contract with our contract items here. And this is our project or job, project, job, with our phases and cost types and all of our cost here. Change order is something that lays over the top of both the contract and the project and adds, that's one way to do it. Didn't actually mean to change the color. I didn't even know you could do that. That's cool. It adds the contract amount to here, and it adds our project amount to here within the, it adds like a layer on top of those two items. So in order for us to layer something onto here, in order for us to layer new revenue here, or to layer new cost onto here, we have to have something to put it to. So I'm also going to show you in this how when we're building a change order, we're often going to the original project and adding a change order phase. We're also going to end up adding a change order item in order for this to in order for us to have something to layer this onto. Of course, when we add these, we're going to add them with $0 amounts because we don't want to add them to the original contract amount. We don't want to add it to the original estimate. Okay, so that's the overview of the job costing system and the contract amount, and how the change order layers on top of that. So now let's get into a brief workflow of how we see the change orders kind of flow through Vista itself. Well, first of all, with a modern Vista, in the cloud, you guys have access to Viewpoint Team. And inside of Viewpoint Team, you can do your PCOs inside of Viewpoint Team. Once you have a PCO that is sent to Vista, once you have entered it in there, you can come in to, it will show up in the project management module inside of Vista. So let's go ahead and draw Vista as a nice big rectangle here. And the PCO, once it comes in from Viewpoint Team, will show up inside of project management module inside the form called PCO, pending change order. So you can actually start it from Viewpoint Team, and you can send that in here. What I'm going to be showing you today is starting within Vista, which is the way a lot of you guys are already doing that. You can actually start within Vista. You don't have to start in Viewpoint Team. Sometimes it's helpful to start in Viewpoint Team because the project managers and the owners and that kind of stuff are already in Team, and so it's useful to be able to see that there. You can see things in Team that you've created in Vista if you have it set up correctly. All right, we're going to be able to take a PCO then, and once we take a PCO, then what we do, the next step is we approve the PCO. Of course, this happens after your owner has approved it, generally speaking. So we're going to approve our PCO. At the time that we approve our PCO, we're also going to add in our new contract item, and we're going to add in our new phase. So we're going to add new contract item and add new phase at the time that we approve the ACO. Then once we have all of our ACO, everything is created, we're going to go ahead and interface that over to our job cost module. And those of you who've been around for a while know that the project management module is kind of a sandbox. It doesn't actually affect our financial statements yet. The job cost module is, it does affect our financials. So at the time that we interface it, now we're going to see that contract amount change on things like the work in progress report. We're going to start to see it change as far as, on individual reports to say that the contract actually has gone up. We're also going to see the estimates change on those various reports as well. We're going to interface that over, and we're going to see that show up as a JC change order. So 3 different places that we're going to see this inside of Vista: the PCO, the ACO, and the JC change order. Now, also, at the same time that we create the PCO, we also have the ability to create a subcontract change order.
In there, that
so I can hear somebody. I don't know if you're asking a question, feel free. If you're not, you can go ahead and mute. Our subcontract change order is also, this is also within project management. And once we're ready and we interface our subcontract change order, this is actually going to come over to our module called the SL module, SL, and it's going to go into our subcontract change order over in SL, which is going to in turn create additional committed cost. All right, so let's review all of these arrows and boxes and bad handwriting here. First of all, we start our PCO process. We have a pending change order inside a Viewpoint team, oftentimes as a PCO. We can roll those into pending change orders inside of Vista, or we can start with pending change orders there. Once we're ready to, we get the approval from the pending change order from our customer, we can add our new contract item and our new phase. In order to tie these to this, we can actually do that before that as well if we choose. And we're going to approve this change order. Now we have an ACO. Once the ACO is final and everything's ready, we can interface it over. We interface it over, it shows up in JC change order. Once it shows up in JC change order as an interfaced approved change order, now we're starting to do things like affect the work in progress schedule and affect our billings. We also have the chance to do our subcontract change order right within the project management module, which then once they get interfaced, creates a subcontract change order, which creates additional committed cost on the job. A couple of side notes on here for those of you to forestall any questions. There is many ways to create a PCO. So I already mentioned the fact that you can use Team to create them and bring it in. You can also use RFIs within Vista to create them. You can also use issues within Vista to create them. I don't see these being used often. I generally see PCOs and using it as a PCO log kind of as the first step. So I'm showing you this as the first step. Note that it can actually be something that happens after the fact. Also, PCOs can get they have a header and they have individual lines, like a lot of things inside of Vista, right? The top part above the gray bar is the header, everything down below is the lines, right? You see this all over the place inside of Vista. However, PCOs can get grouped together. Multiple PCOs can get grouped together in what is called a change order request. And I only bring that up because it shows up inside of Vista. You go into the project management module, you type in change at the very top in the bar, you'll see change order request. You can group multiple pending change orders into one change order request. I don't recommend that you use the change order request. I think it's for 95% of you, it's needless. You can do the same thing by having a single PCO and having multiple lines, and it's a whole lot less confusing for you, and it's a whole lot less confusing for your customer. Once your PCO comes over to your ACO, of course, it also will have a header and you'll have lines. There is a thing inside of Vista that allows you to group multiple ACOs together as what is called a contract change order. Again, I don't recommend that you use this. I think it's needless complication. You can do the same thing by having multiple lines on your ACO. You can even call it a contract change order on your ACO with a report that you print out and send to your customer. You don't need to do this. Furthermore, you can group multiple PCOs into an ACO anyway. You can grab PCO number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Many of you guys will have that, right? Like your owner will approve 5 or 6 change orders all at once, and they'll lump it together into a single line. They want one line on their billing or whatever. You can group all of those PCOs into a single ACO anyway. The extra complication of using change order requests on the PCO side, contract change orders on the ACO side, is almost all of the time not necessary. Please, in the comments, if you guys are using change order requests and contract change orders, I would love to hear why, because there are going to be some valid uses of them. Please let me know, and we can talk about them during the Q&A. But for this purpose of the demonstration today, I'm going to be talking about PCOs and ACOs and not about change order requests or contract change orders any further than I already have. Okay. One other note: when we zoom in on a PCO and we look at the individual lines here, we can actually do a couple of things. Number one, we can price. That's supposed to be a number sign. Number one, we can do a lump sum that is just fixed or built up. And if we do the build up version, we can add things like markups and add-ons to our cost. So when I'm saying built up, I'm actually saying I'm building up the price, the revenue that we're going to bill from the cost, and the cost can be built up from the add-ons and the markups. We can build it up and actually use the Vista change order system as kind of a miniature estimating program, right? We can actually use it as a miniature estimating program by saying this is the cost that we're going to experience. These are the markups that we're allowed by contract or we're going to charge, and we can actually build those up, put it into our lump sum. We can also, instead of having a lump sum, the second way of doing a line is we can have a unit price change. This can happen when you are working like it's commonly used for Department of Transportation projects when you're doing unit price contracts and maybe you're changing the unit price because of something changing on the job. So you can do a unit price change as well. Okay, so that's kind of some of the detail there. We're going to be talking a little bit inside of Vista about markups and add-ons and how we would build things up. And we'll also go through the fixed, all of the just putting in a fixed price and how all of that changes. Okay. PCOs come from many different places, teams from a grouping of RFIs and issues. They join to a single PCO. We can take a single PCO and bring it into an ACO. We can also bring multiple PCOs into a single ACO. When we create an approved change order, that is the ACO, we're also, remember, adding our new contract item and our phase. The reason that we're doing that is because, as we saw up here, the change order is simply a layer on top of the contract and the project. So we have to have it something to grab onto on the contract, on the project. We have to give it a new contract item if we're adding revenue. We have to give it a new phase if we're adding cost. Now I can hear you already with your questions. But Michael, what if I want to add revenue to an existing contract item? But Michael, what if I want to add estimated cost to an existing phase? Well, that's perfectly valid. You can do that. the instead of layering it onto a new change order item that we're going to be creating on a new phase, we simply layer this on to an existing change contract item and an existing phase or set of phases. We can do that and add the cost here, add the revenue there. However, most of the time, yeah, 70-80% of the time, it's less confusing for your owners if you add a new item to bill on. So you, instead of adding cost to an existing item and changing their existing schedule of values, adding a line at the bottom of your billing will help them so they can easily identify the extra money that you're billing them because they signed that change order a few weeks previously. Similarly, on the phase and cost type side, it's easier for your project managers, generally speaking, to identify the extra money they've spent when they're doing their projections and looking at their actual cost if it's a separate phase. Now, phases are difficult sometimes to separate out, right? If it's a change order that affects your cost, but it isn't very easy for the people in the field to separate out their time, right? Maybe it's an upgrade of some sort, and it takes a little bit extra time to install this upgrade, but it's very difficult for them to say, okay, well, the first 15 minutes I spent would have been spent on the existing, receptacle, and now I'm spending an extra 5 to set because it's the upgraded receptacle, right? It's very difficult. Sometimes you do want to add the cost to an existing phase. That can happen. However, as much as possible, I like to see them separated out. I like to see a brand new contract item and a brand new phase with its associated cost types. Okay, I'm going to stop now and open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions? Again, feel free and ask right in the chat. It says the meeting chat is muted. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Okay, and feel free to ask questions. I do hear some background noise. I'm going to go ahead and mute there. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask right there in the chat. Okay, looks like we're pretty quiet. So, oh, there we go. Alice, in your suggestion to eliminate the CCO, the contract change order, would you just create a custom report for the ACO and use that? Yes, Alice, I would for sure. So I would just create a custom report, or you really just modify the existing custom report to say contract change order, and just call it a contract change order if that's what your owner wants it to be called. We don't need to use the one that's called contract change order. I find that to be most of the time needless abstraction inside of Vista. Internal change orders. Oh, wonderful question. Thank you, Jackie. So internal change orders. We said up here that we have a contract with revenue and we have a project or job with our cost, right? And we've been talking about how the change orders affects the cost. Our original estimate changes. Our original estimate here changes to our current estimate through the change orders. We also said down here that a contract will affect our new revenue amount as well as our costs. So internal change orders are different though, right? Internal change orders are changes that only affect our cost. So what are they used for? So internal change orders, generally speaking, are used to move things around in a formal way on your job, or specifically on the cost side of things. Let's give myself a little bit more room here. On the cost side of things, we have our project job. We have our phase. Let's just call it phase 1 and phase 2. And we have the cost types. Let's just label them all. Labor. I'll go ahead, labor. I'll just say labor, equipment, and materials. And let's just say on phase 2, we have subcontractor, right? So phase 1 is a regular a phase where we're self-performing, and phase 2 is a subcontract labor. Possibly in our original estimate, we have an estimate on labor, equipment, and material. And we had nothing, 0, on our subcontractor down below, right? All right, so we had, let's just put that there. Now, let's assign this some numbers here, right? So 1K, 1K, and let's just say 2K for, and 0 down here, right? So we have a total estimate of 4K, $4,000. Now, as we got into this job, we realized we have an opportunity to subcontract this portion of the job. It helps alleviate our schedule. Maybe they can do it more easily, etc. In this case, we found out that we can have a subcontractor do this work for $2,000, including all the materials. It's half the price that we thought it was going to cost us to do it ourselves. Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and hire that subcontractor, save a little bit of money. And so what we want is we want our current estimate, that is our estimate after our internal change order, to look like this: 0, 0, 0, $2,000, right? For a total current estimate of $4,000. Sorry, I promised 2 plus 0 equals 2. So we have a current estimate of $2,000. We have an internal change order that's actually saving us money. So we're going to, in the project and job, we're going to add this layer to these 2 existing phases, and we're actually going to subtract the cost. So we're going to end up with negative costs here and add the cost here. So the change order itself, the CO itself, is going to be a negative $2,000 change order overall on the cost side, because we're going to be subtracting out the negative 4 from above and adding in the 2 here. But we're doing it to existing phases. So when do we create an internal change order, and when do we simply use let it ride out, right? Because of course we don't have to have a change order. We can simply charge the subcontractor to phase 2 and not associate any costs with phase 1. And when we're doing our projections, we'll see that come out in our actual costs. The time that we want to do that is when we want to formalize this change. We want to formalize this change. So we know that when we're doing our projections, that as project managers, we're sitting down and we're always moving things around, tweaking things. We're estimating like small estimates. Okay, it's going to take this long to do this. It's going to take that long to do that. And we're kind of tweaking things all the time. Well, at some point, if this particular change here, changing from self-performed down to subcontracted work, if that change happened early in the job, we might not want to deal with that every time we sit down to do projections and have to remember that, oh yeah, that's right, this particular thing is going to be changed, right? We want to just have it dealt with. We want to say, okay, this is done. We're going to change this. We're going to put it into the job, and we're going to never have to think about it again. It's already done. It'll be represented by default on our projections each time. There's also times where internal processes dictate that a change of a certain magnitude needs to be formally accepted. And so you can use the change order process to formally accept an internal change. This usually happens on, like you can see on estimate blows, right? So you have a project manager, he gets into his job, he can see that the estimator thought that a particular scope of work was going to cost $100,000, but really it's going to cost $200,000. Like it's doubling that scope of work. And it's one of those situations where he brings it to his manager, he says, listen, it looks like estimating made a mistake here. This is going to affect the margin on the job. I don't want to talk about this every time we sit down to do a project review. Let's get this out. Let's own this right now. What's going on? We write up the change order. We represent that change order right there in the changes. We get them to sign off on it. The operations manager, whoever it happens to be, vice president of operations, and we say, okay, we're dealt with that. When we're talking about the project review, we're going to talk about all the other problems that we have in the job, but not that problem anymore. That one we laid to rest, right? So it's a way of formalizing large changes, but they only affect the cost side. And I'll show that briefly when we get into Vista. Alice, oh yeah, back to your question about the CCO. You said not sure we can eliminate the CORs with some of our owners. Yeah, that's totally legitimate. Some owners do require them, and they want to be able to see those groups. That's exactly why it was created. However, many times, just to simplify things, you can actually have a PCO with multiple lines, and that will satisfy your owners. Maybe not always. Maybe they want to see the individual PCOs listed out. I totally understand. In which case, you can use the COR and use it for what it's designed for. Nancy, will this recording be sent out? Yes, this will be sent out. And feel free and share it. It'll also be posted to our Silvertrek YouTube channel. All right. Alice, can you confirm the proper process for creating internal change order for reallocating contract item values only, no estimate purchase? We've been doing external with impact to contract only and including fixed amount for each PCO item to accomplish this, but are having issues with custom reports. Yes, so okay, you're talking about using changing similar to what we talked about here, but saying we want to just reallocate things over on our contract item side, right? Contract item. So you're saying that on some items you want to just take some revenue and reallocate it up to another one. That can get kind of tricky. For one thing, it's not strictly speaking an internal change order if you're moving revenue around on the contract items that are billable. It's not an internal change order because it's affecting the way you bill. So I wouldn't call that an internal change order, but you can use it that way. Basically, it's internal in the sense that you might not have to send that out to the customer for approval, right? If you're not increasing the contract amounts, you need to you can use it, reallocate it, but it's not strictly speaking an internal one. You can still use a change order to do this, to formally change, put a negative cost here and a positive cost here, or sorry, negative revenue there, positive revenue there, and we can do that. What we would do is we would just do a negative on the PCO and a positive on the on one PCO line item, another one on another PCO line item. We could see that change. It would be a $0 overall change. Depending on your contract and whatever you might have to send that off for approval, you might not, and then we'll see how that would change on the job of billing itself. Generally speaking, though, depending on what you're trying to get done, you wouldn't call that an internal change order. Okay, Tim, thank you for posting that. That's great. Thank you for that. And Alice, you said that internal is in-house, but using external type. Okay, cool. Sierra, for PCOs, where we are starting with the PCO item in the grid, but adding details to the estimate, we print the change order. All items, regardless of phase code or cost type, are listed in the same description from the PCO item. So in order to show the client those items, each one has to be its own PCO item. Is there a solution to be able to have the phase code shown on the PCO? Yes, Sierra, there is. So if I understand your question right, you want to be able to show all of the detail of the change order itself. This is especially important on the change orders where they only allow, where your contract only allows a certain amount of markup, right? Can you show the full estimate detail? Yes, you can. The baked-in custom or the baked-in reports typically don't show those super well. There is a couple of things that we can talk about, including using the old Microsoft Word document templates, which can show those as well. But generally speaking, especially if this is going to be a common thing, I would recommend getting your IT department to write you a custom report that would grab that detail and show it correctly. It's the reason I say that a custom report, I don't like saying custom. I would rather show you a vanilla option. And there are some vanilla options. Vanilla is my term for anything that is default inside of Vista. There are some options that are in there that you can do that, but almost always, if you're showing a change order to a customer based on what you typed into Vista, you want that to look really nice. You want it to have you want it to have your letterhead on there. You want it to show them exactly the right amount of detail and not too much detail. It's like sometimes you want to show them the total labor amount, but you don't want to show them the labor hours. Sometimes you need to show them the labor hours, but all of these different things that are very unique per contract, and actually sometimes per contract officer, like individual contract officers can just be kind of fastidious, I guess, and require a lot of information. So your I recommend finding out what you need, mocking it up in Excel, right? Doing it, making sure that it's right, and then getting it to your IT department and having them build a custom report for you. Sorry, that's my answer. I hate saying custom reporting. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to Vista itself? Right. I am going to pull up Vista here. Test system. All right. One note here, like I said, if you're in the cloud, you'll have in Viewpoint Team, there is a way to turn on. It'll show up right here at the top. It'll say pending change orders right here, right past contacts, and you can actually create them. There was no way for me to do that in the test system here for you guys, but you can actually create them from Team. I do recommend creating them from Team for if you're using Team already. It's a great way of initializing it. It is just a one-way street though. So you create it inside of Team, you send it into Vista, and you can't then go and keep editing it if you screwed something up inside a Team. You have to go into Vista and edit it if you screwed something up, or just don't ever screw anything up. Like some of the customers that are on here, like you guys just never screw anything up, and so it's great. Just do like them. Okay, we're going to go into my example excavating here, and we're going to add in a change order. You can see here that I have a job. This is Oak Street Industrial Pump Station. It's my 21034 job, right? I already have a change order in here as original contract amount of 1.1 million. Now I'm almost 1.2, right? It's kind of a brand new job. I haven't started in getting any costs yet. I do have some committed costs here from a subcontractor, right? But generally speaking, this is doing pretty good. We have our original cost estimate here, $990,000, our gross profit amount, right? We have some information in here already. We're going to be dealing with this project. Okay, so I'm the project manager on this job, and to just set the tone, this project is for the city of Vancouver, Washington, here just south of me. And a city of Vancouver, Washington, they called before the job started. They called up and they asked us to demo along. There's another little building that they own right beside the building that we're actually working on. Well, so if we go into our project management folder projects, so you can see I have a custom folder called projects here, and I go into my contracts. You can see that on the Oak Street Industrial Pump Station, if I go to my items, that I have my I have a demolition and preparation excavation already here. However, they're going to be they asked me to demo a new item. I'm going to go ahead and add an item at some point to build them. They want me to demo something else. Well, there's some demo. I'm an excavating company, right? We're going to be doing some excavation. It turns out there's a little bit of asbestos in this that we need to get our subcontractor that deals with asbestos to come in and help us out on this. We can go ahead and tear it out, but we're not licensed to deal with hazardous material. So I'm going to have to get them involved as well. We're going to change how much we're billing to the customer. We'll add in a contract item here. We're also going to change the cost that we're going to experience. We're going to have additional labor and equipment, but we're also going to have a subcontract change order that is going to do, because we're going to ask our existing asbestos subcontractor to come in and help us with the additional hazardous waste. All right. I like to go to this folder here. I have change management. You can see here I created a folder called change management. One note, I create these folders by right-clicking new, and then we have these things in here. You can see document control is number 3, change management is number 4. Inside of change management, I have a few things: pending change orders, approved change orders, subcontract change orders, all part of the PM module. I have my PM interface, and I have JC change orders. I got those here by going to the programs module, going up to the top, and typing change. So this filtered everything that was in the big program folder to just the changes. Then I took my change orders, pending change orders, for example, and I dragged it over to my change management folder and I added it here. There's a few things I didn't add to this that you'll see if you type change. Some of them are those change order requests that we talked about and the contract change orders. Also PM change orders, which is a summary screen that I don't happen to find super useful. So I like to do from the main menu, I like to talk about my change orders here. So I'm going to go in and start my PM pending change order right from here. Many of you will like to use the project management dashboard here. So if I'm going to come into to do my change orders from the project management dashboard, it is possible. I can come into my project management dashboard, which is added up here in my work center, and I can do my change management directly from here. Change management directly from here is useful when you have a bunch of attachments and emails and other things that you want to see. So I can come in and find all of my 21034. Here you can see the previous one that I already have on my job. I can see my pending change order, my approved change order, and subcontract change orders, all kind of in one spot. It is useful. I can see my related items here as well. So when I'm clicking on one pending change order, I can see my approved change order and my subcontract change order that are associated with this. Generally speaking, though, I use this tab called Project Management, the Project Management Work Center, to look at previously created work orders, like it's like more of my log, and I use the main menu to actually create them. That's my preference, but like J. O'Callahan said, you get your own style. All right, PM pending change orders. We're going to go into PM pending change orders, and I'm going to start creating this additional demolition that the City of Vancouver asked me to do. So here in my project, you can see I have my project already here. I'm going to go to the info tab. I like to do it here, and I'm going to create PCO number 2. This is actually the second change order they've asked me to do on with some demolition. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say demo well building adjacent to site. All right. And I can put in all of my details here. Let's talk about a few of these things here. One is these dates, the status, the priority, the reason initiated by, and the reference number, as well as the date 1, 2, and 3, and the random order of magnitude, ROM. This particular acronym stands for random order of magnitude. These things are all used by the standard reports or custom reports or by the document template that will actually send to the owner. If you guys are using this to record change orders that are being sent via email or outside of the system, none of these things are strictly necessary. They're all reporting things. Down here, though, we have the change impact estimate. That is it changing the cost? SL, is it changing a subcontract? PO, is it changing a purchase order? And contract, is it changing the value that we're billing to the customer? And then we choose our pricing method between lump sum or unit price right up here. So when I fill out, or when I'm teaching project managers to fill out project or pending change orders for the first time, I tell them, hey, throw a stab at the random order of magnitude. What is this probably going to cost? Just so you kind of get in your head right from the beginning. It helps you kind of think about things right then. You're like, all right, we don't know much about this. We haven't priced it yet. I haven't gone out to the site, but you know what? It's probably going to be, I'm going to probably end up billing the customer something along the lines of $80,000 for this. All right, sounds good. We're going to just type that in here and I hit tab. Now, is this going to change my estimate? Question is it going to change the cost that I experience? The answer in this case is yes. I'm going to have additional labor, additional equipment costs, and I'm going to have additional subcontractor costs. So absolutely it's going to change my estimate. Is it going to change my subcontract? Yes, it will. I'm going to have a subcontract change order written that's going to affect this job. Is it going to affect any purchase orders? The answer in this case is no. And is it going to affect my contract with my customer? In this case, yes, it is. I'm going to leave that one checked as well. How am I going to price this? Is this going to base unit price or is it lump sum? My contract is lump sum. So this is going to be a lump sum price as well once I get that lump sum. I don't know it yet. I'm going to take a little tangent here and talk about the purchase order changes. Purchase order changes are very similar to what you're going to see here in subcontract changes. However, I don't see them used nearly as often. I see they are used when you have a central change order, central purchasing division. So maybe you have a warehouse with a purchasing agent or a set of purchasing agents, and you're writing large purchase orders, and they're very good at their job. They're very detailed, and they have good relationships with a few vendors that can require a purchase order change order. So a change to an existing purchase order. But what I actually see in real life is most of the time, instead of writing changes to an existing purchase order, they're scrapping a purchase order and they're writing a new one. Or if it's an addition to a purchase order, instead of writing a change order to the existing purchase order, you just simply write a new purchase order. So you have two purchase orders on the same job with separate line items. So most of the time, we're not seeing that change orders are useful to vendors. They are useful and they can be useful when you have detailed purchase agents and you have good relationship with your vendors. Certainly within the system, they work just fine. But it can be kind of confusing. Okay, back to our change order here. I'm going to come down below, and I like to do my work on the info tab, not on the grid. Of course, you can do it either way. And I'm going to go into my PCO item and add my first PCO item. This grabs the description that I typed in up here, demo the well building adjacent to the site. And we'll talk about a few of the fields down below in the lines. Budget number, and status, force unchanged in days, budget status, budget number, status, change in days. These are all things that are used for reporting. The change in days is very useful for liquidated damages or schedule ads. I definitely recommend, from a project management perspective, that you write change orders even when it's a zero change to the owner if it just adds days, especially if there's liquidated damages involved. When you get liquidated damages that start costing your company $1,000 per day, or like in some shutdown situations, per every 15 minutes, etc., you definitely need to have the backup to say that yes, I am late on this job, but that's because you added demo well building adjacent to the site to the project. We need an extra month to finish this job. I don't think it'll take a month to demo this, but we definitely want to add in the change in days. In this case, I'm going to say 10 days. Now it says contract item. So we're at the contract item down here in the lower side. But if I hit F4, I don't actually have a contract item to put this to. This is my second change order. I don't have anything to put this to. It's because it's not approved yet. I'm going to go ahead and leave this blank for now. I don't need to put any contract item yet. And then we come to the contract impact. There's two ways of doing this: the fixed amount, or we're going to build it up by leaving it blank. So you remember back on my whiteboard, I said we're building it up from the cost. We can leave this blank and we can actually build up this dollar amount. It'll populate this for us. Or we can just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to bill them $80,000. Well, that's one way to do it. $80,000, no matter what it costs. So either way is a legitimate way to do it. But for now, I'm going to leave this unchecked so that you guys can see how it works when I build it up from the cost. In order to put the cost in, I go to my estimate and purchase details, and I go and select my phase. So already here, you can see that I have a bit of a problem because I don't have a phase to put this to, right? I mean, I could put it to the demolition area, or I could put it to my existing change orders, but it's like that. Those aren't exactly right. This is going to confuse the guys in the field. So already during the pending change order stage, most of the time, I recommend hitting setup and going in and you can't hit setup from this button. I'm sorry. Going into my project, in projects, going into the phase and actually adding in my phase already right now. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add in CO2 change order number 2, demo well building. and I'm going to add it in here. Now there's a potential problem with this because we might not actually do this work, right? It's just pending. They haven't necessarily approved this change. Sometimes though, many times even, I can say, you guys get started on work that you haven't actually gotten formal approval for. And it is good to be able to separate that out so that you can then go and say, hey, I've already spent, 10 grand on this. I would like to be at least reimbursed for this, even if we stop work and we don't do anything else, right? Contract item, we don't have a contract item for this yet. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it temporarily to mobilization. You'll have to come back to this later. Now, right off the bat, I double click on this. I come in and I initialize cost types. I go ahead and initialize all my cost types to this change order, and I leave everything blank. All these things are zero. All these amounts are zero. You're going, Michael, but it's not going to be zero. It's going to actually cost me some money to do this work. I'm like, I know, but if I add it here, this is adding an original estimate. And a change order is by definition not our original estimate. So we're adding, initializing cost types, but we're leaving them all as zero. Cool, we're good to go. This does a few things for us. One thing, if you're using KeyStyle or the portal, it's available for them to already choose this phase inside of KeyStyle, so they can cost their time correctly, especially in the very fast-paced change orders, the things that are happening. You guys are you're scrambling to keep up administratively with the actual changes in the field, etc. So this already allows us, but it also, once I close out of here, I can go into my pending change order, and now I can go in and find this change order 2, and I can build out my change order with the estimated cost on the phase where it will belong. Then I choose my cost type, and I'm going to say labor. Okay, here I can put in my estimated hours. So I'm going to say how many hours this is going to probably take me to demo. I'm going to say 24 hours, a 3-man crew, 1 day. And then I can estimate my dollar amount, $3,500. There's no vendor associated with my labor, right? No subcontract, nothing here. And then I can say my purchase amount. Nope, there's no purchase order amount, anything here. Is this active? Yes, it's active. Okay, cool. Then we go to the next thing here, and we're going to add the same phase, CO2, cost type 2. Let's make sure I'm not, I meant to say cost type 4. There we go. This is also going to be 24 machine hours to do this. It's going to be 3250 here for that. Again, no vendor, no SL. Then we add in our subcontractor CO2. CO2, I mean, I got to be careful with my climate change here. Then we're going to go to subcontractor, and we're going to add in how much they're going to bill us to handle this asbestos-laden well site. Sounds terrible to have asbestos right by the well. I'm glad the city of Vancouver is taking care of this. So we're going to go ahead and say, all right, they're going to charge us $54,000. They're going to charge us $54,000. Now I can go into my vendor, and I can choose my vendor from the list of project vendors. I already have them here, Demara Services, and I can either check this box and create a new subcontract, or I can say, you know what, I want to grab my existing subcontract and add the next item. I know that I only have 2 items on here. Notice that I added item number 3 for me automatically. I, of course, could add item number 2, but I'm going to leave it to item number 3 because I want them to see clearly on their subcontract that I'm billing them, or I'm paying them an additional $54,000. Purchase amount, $54,000. It's the same amount that I typed here. Purchase amount, how much I'm paying the subcontract, is going to be the same amount that I put here. Okay, cool. There's some other things over here that you guys can look at. They have some impact on the billing, etc. Feel free. This is all standard phase stuff outside of the scope of this webinar. Feel free and hit F1 on there if you'd like. And then we get into the markups. So markups. We can actually set defaults on the project for markups, but we can actually come in here and say our cost type and our how much we have. Internal markup and contract markup. So let's just say that we have a 10% that is allowed here by our contract with our owner. This shows our net amount and our contract amount and our gross amount. So it adds 10% to this. If we add internal markup here, we can have, it's actually basically adding it'll add the internal markup first. They'll take this internal markup and it will mark it up another 10%, so 385, right? So first 3,850 because it's these two added together, then 10%. This is will actually not show on the standard reports as markup at all. It'll show it as cost. So kind of a sneaky way to get markup in there if you if that's the way that you guys have it. But you can leave this as 0 and put in the 10%. Shows on all of the reports there. And then you can have this detail on there. So this is what I was talking about earlier when I answered, I believe it was Alice's question. I can you can actually show this detail in whatever form you want on your custom report, even on some of the standard reports. Then we can go and do our add-ons. Add-ons are usually, so if I hit F4, I go ahead and hit setup here. I can go and add an add-on for this particular project. The most common one, the most common one that we see is bond cost. And so you'll have like a standard percent, like maybe 1% add-on, right? That we'll put here. I can add a bond cost to this. I can choose this bond cost. I can also have just typed it in, and we'll add my bond cost in here, 1% to the total. I'm going to owe this to my bonding company anyway for 1%, so therefore I'm going to charge my customer for this. Again, consult what you're allowed to add for add-ons. You can set your markups and you can set your add-ons by default in the information. I'm sorry, in the project itself. Or I think that's in the on the contract side. We can see additional information. This just shows us our totals here for this, and we can see all of the changes that I've made. So this is just showing me the audit table. It can be useful, especially if you have multiple people doing things and you're wondering why things have changed. All right, I have my single PCO item, and you can see up here I have my totals, my contract amount changes, my estimate amount, my purchase amount. Oh yeah, I didn't say that. Note that because of this markup of 10% plus my add-ons here, it actually added together to get me my total amount here, 67,500, right? It also shows me my cost breakdown. So it did the math. It's like a miniature estimating program for me. All right, a couple things here. One thing that we can do is we can use this tasks menu up here, load PCO item costs. I can actually, instead of manually entering my PCOs, I can come in and use this form and load them. I can also adjust change order units and amounts and zero out PCO item add-ons. We can use these forms. I'm not going to go into detail on today about these particular things, but it can be fairly useful, especially if you're doing a big change, internal change order, for example. Adding the PCO items here can like bring in all of your PCO items, like a bunch of detail for you, and you don't have to type it all out. Super useful. You can also copy a PCO. I see this done a lot. So people will create at the beginning of the job, they'll create one PCO, and then they get all the details right, and then they're going to be seeing a lot of those come through. So they just copy the PCO from the previous one, and then they just go in and change it before they approve it. Super useful. Okay. Next, we can go to our distribution tab. So our distribution, we can actually distribute this to our firms on our job. We actually have to be able to, we have to have a distribution contact in order to use what I call the penvelope up here. Thank you, Ed Kirkham, for that term. This little icon here, I can actually create the document from the template. So if I go in and I create the document from the template, this is going to give me an error message when I do this, but it basically allows us to use the template. This is a Word document template that that I can edit, and I can hit, if I hit create in the test system, gives me an error. It will actually create a Word document that has this detail in it. This is a little bit old school, although frankly, so is Crystal Reports. This can be very useful for the way that you guys actually send this out. So if you're not using an external system to actually send out information to your customers, I do recommend getting into creating the documents from the template. Honestly, creating the templates and getting into how to do that could be a webinar all on its own. Okay, let's see here. What just happened there? Like I temporarily lost connection to the remote desktop. Okay, back to creating documents from template. So once you have your template, once you have it all, you can have your letterhead on there and all of that. And it is just a Word document. It's really easy to edit. Definitely for, you can have your contract language and all of that. For those of you guys who are kind of dealing more with the public, like instead of dealing with government agencies, but you're dealing with individual homeowners or residential, it can be a useful way to get your change order contract language in there easily and send that out as a PDF. And it can track it. Once you create that template, it does show up as an attachment right here. So you'll be able to create that from the template and show it up as an attachment right here. Easy way to send that out. Okay, in our case, that in my example case here with the city of Vancouver, they already knew that they wanted it. I told them what the price was going to be, $67,500. I sent out an email with my external change order system. They approved it. All right, great. Now it's approved. What do I need to do? Well, since it's approved, I have the signed document. Of course, I can go ahead and like drag and drop my information if I want. I can just take my my document and I can drag and drop it right onto there if I want. But once I have that information, I have to actually send it over the line. I have to approve it and I have to interface it, if you remember from my whiteboard. Well, I don't want to change anything yet until I have actually created my contract item. How am I going to actually bill for it? So here you can see in my contract item, it's currently blank. I'm going to go ahead and hit setup on here and create a contract items, PM contract items. I'm going to come in, type CO2, and I'm going to say demo adjacent well structure. All right. And I'm going to leave my amount 0. 0, because I don't want to add any original contract amount, right? I'm leaving it 0. I'm letting the layer that is the change order add that for me. So I'm going to leave this 0, but I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a lump sum, and we're all fine there. Cool. I haven't done PM contract change order. I'm going to grab CO2 right from here. CO2. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take a little time to go over to my phase. If I go back to my job phases here, job phases. Oh, wrong job, 21032. I'm going to go down to my 034, 21034, wrong job. I'm going to go to my demo wall building, and I'm going to change my contract item right now. Remember earlier, I didn't have a contract item. It was tied to the wrong thing. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up because I am conscientious and I want people to like me. I'm going to close. So now that I've changed that, I'm going to come back in here. Now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go up here and close my thing here so I can see it. Tasks, and I'm going to say approve PCO. All right, approve PCO. I use the task menu to do this. It's going to come in here. It opens up this screen. A few things. First, it has a required field of ACO. If I hit plus, it grabs me my next ACO. In this case, it's 1-to-1, one PCO to one ACO. I could also add this to an existing ACO. Remember I said that multiple PCOs can be joined into one ACO? This is the time I would do that. I could actually add PCO number 2 to change order number 1 if I chose, just simply by grabbing it here. I don't want to. I want to add a new one because this is going to be a new ACO demo well building adjacent to site. Approval dates today, new completion date. I'm going to leave that blank, but I have create sub PO change orders upon PCO approval. Do I want to create a subcontractor change orders upon approval? Yeah, that sounds great. Let's let the system do the administration for us. Sweet, double thumbs up. I'm letting it create the subcontractor change order in the system for me right now. Am I going to create a single change order per vendor? Yes, I am. By Jingo, I am. One change order per vendor. Am I going to auto approve the sub change orders? Absolutely. Nobody else has to approve this. I'm in charge here. I can approve everything. I'm going to let the system do it for me. Great. Okay. Report sequence number 2, it comes in automatically there. Contract change order. I already said I don't believe in contract change orders. I'm leaving this as none. Now I come into PCO items, and you can see that all of the items, in the case only one, they have approve as checked. And the key here is that the contract item is filled out. If I hadn't filled out the contract item earlier, this would be blank. When I go to hit approve, it would give me an error. It would say, I'm sorry, but you can't approve this without a contract item. not if you have revenue, not if it's an external change order. So I would need to have that in there. Note that I could have filled it in right from this screen if I had chose, but it's already filled in. I think we're hunky dory. Go ahead and hit approve. It's going to think about it for a second. All right, 1 PCO items were successfully approved. 0 PCO items had errors. Cool. If it had errors, error details to the right of the item, I could have gone over to here. It would have shown up here, and there would have been something in the error screen right there. All right, good. I've approved the PCO. That means that I can close out of this, and I can go into my change management folder, PM, approved change orders. And you can see I have demo wall building adjacent to site, and it has all of my information up top, my revenue, my estimate, my estimated profit, has my information down below. It even has, if you come in here, you can see that how many hours, how many estimate I'm going to have, how many hours I'm going to spend on all of these items, etc. The other thing that it did for me was it created a PM subcontract change order. I can come in to my vendor and I can find this subcontract change order number 2 for Tomorrow Systems. Here they are, change order number 2, demo wall building, and it created it for $54,000, just like I typed into the change order, and it's approved and ready for accounting. Sweet. So now, if I want to, I can come in and create a document from this, a subcontract change order. Just like before, I can create this using a Word template with my letterhead. It will have all of this information on it, right? This detail that is down below, listed out on my Word document. I can have my subcontractor contract language all attached to that, and I can create a PDF right from my Word document and send it to the subcontractor. Pretty cool. If you're using something like Procore, then Procore could do it for you. Or if you're using some external system, right, then you can just record this. It will attach it again, just like in the change order side. It will attach it here in the attachments, or you can just drag and drop it onto this form. All right, cool. Subcontract change order is created. My approved change order is created. Now, if we pull up my old whiteboard here, remember that we said that after we create an ACO, we have to interface it over to the job cost change order, because right now we're not going to see it. And you're like, Michael, I want to see the fact that we can't see it. And I'm like, all right, fine. So here was our contract, our PM contract analysis drill down. Let's go ahead and run our contract analysis drill down again for this job. 21032, 21034. Stop laughing at me. Hit preview. And we're going to double click, go into Oak Street Industrial Pump Station Rehabilitation. And you can see here I have ACOs not interface, $67,500. I could also have run this and seen my pending change order when it was there, right? So I'm going to be able to see that it's not here. All right, well, let's go ahead and interface this bad boy. I'm going to come into PM interface. Find this, it's going to interface my approved change order, my project update, which is updating my contract because I added a contract item in a phase, and it's going to interface my subcontract change order. Validate it, make sure there's no errors on here. You can hit preview if you're Monty, and otherwise hit interface. All right, interface process is complete. Now I'm going to go and rerun my contract analysis drill down one more time. 21034. And let's look at how this changed. Go into it. You can see that now I have $102,000 of ACOs. And you can see my committed cost is no longer 75, but 129. I can drill into this and I can see my subcontract, my original for 50, my first change order for 25, and my next one for 54 for my total subcontract to the asbestos demolition sub for $129,000. So I'm able to see my contract has changed and my projected contract amount has changed here. And I can see, if I drill into that, my change orders, and I show them up here. Last thing I need to show you before we go to questions and answers is the billing itself. because now that we've billed for it, well, we need to go and, sorry, now that we've added a change order, we need to go and bill for it. I'm going to come into JB Progress Billings. It's really straightforward. I'm going to add a new bill here. Don't hit plus. Come in, grab my contract amount 21034. It'll put in all of the information about this. And if I go to my items tab, you can see my new change order is here and the contract amount 67,500, just waiting for me to come in, type in 100% complete and bill this customer for this. One note, there's a chance, not with you guys, not with some of the people that I work with that are on this call, but there's a chance that you screwed something up and you actually interface the change order before they're willing to approve it. You can come in here, hit the change orders button, and actually just delete this right from this bill. So let's go back here, put in 0. So let's just say that, oh, I'm billing for it, but I shouldn't actually show this yet because they haven't officially approved it and they're kind of picky, and I'll just allow them to be picky because the customer's always right, even if we scoff at them. And I'm going to delete this ACO item here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We're deleting this ACO from the bill itself, not deleting it in general. And now when we come over to items, we'll still see the item here because we entered it on the contract, but you can see the contract amount is 0, right? So now they're not going to freak out because their overall contract amount has changed prior to them actually approving the bill. So you can do that. You can also, if you started doing your billing before you interface the change order, which some of my less perfect customers will sometimes do that, very rarely, you can actually add these manually in here. Add this change order amount to this change order. Now, when I come over to items, now it's available for me to bill, right? Won't be available unless it has been interfaced and it's tied to the billing. Great, it's ready for me to go here. And then of course, if I'm doing my subcontract claims, SL subcontract claims, I can even come in here, grab my subcontract, 21034, my demolition subcontract. This is my claim, my next claim number 1 in this case. And you can see on my items, I have my change order number 2. And if I do 100% here of my claim, it's going to bill $54,000. Sorry, I'm going to get billed $54,000 from my subcontractor. So you can see that it's flowing through all the way to the billing on the subcontractor side. So cool, we can do the billing, we can do the subcontractor claim. We got our contract change order in there. We were able to create it from the document templates. Everything is hunky-dory, and we got 12 minutes left. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and answer some of your questions. In fact, I think out of the side of my vision here that you guys have already been asking me some questions that I may not have answered already. Let's see here. Estelle Tapney, does it matter if you go through JC contracts instead of PM contracts? No, it does not. It does not matter if you go through JC contracts instead of PM contracts. It is possible though that you won't see. Some people won't have access to job cost contracts. Also, I just recommend if you're doing the PM, if you're using the PM module, that you start on the PM and you actually interface that over. It just keeps things clean. It gets people used to interfacing things over, because although with contract items it doesn't matter, with most things it does matter, and you'll be sitting there scratching your head if you don't actually PM interface it. Kathleen, can you talk about the force phase option? Yes, I can. So what she's talking about here is in the PM pending change, we have this little force phase. It says basically force phase. And what this does is it makes the contract item for the job phase the same as a PCO item upon interface. So this basically forces you to link these phases here. Once I interface it, it'll link these phases to this contract item right here once I interface it. Pretty straightforward. I can force that over. I showed you guys how to do that manually. I prefer that you guys do it manually because you have more control over it. For one thing, a lot of contracts the phases actually aren't linked to the contract items. They're all linked to, mobilization or general requirements or something, because you don't really care about that. And so if all of a sudden one phase randomly is tied to one contract item, it can be weird. But I like to do it manually. Certainly you can use the force phase button or checkbox. Shannon, what does the subcontract change order look like? I realized that I should have gotten some examples of some templates here, the templates, but basically it's just going to be a Word document that shows your letterhead once you create that letterhead with all of the subcontractor items, what it previously was, what it is now. Alice, can you briefly explain SL subcontract claims? Oh, well, I could, but I don't think I'm gonna. The subcontract claims is so a lot of you guys maybe have used the kind of older version of SL worksheet. Subcontract claims is the replacement for SL worksheet. This is just the way that you record their billings. The reason I say I'm not going to is because it's really cool and it's really powerful, and it's going to take me more than the 7 minutes I have left. But definitely look it up. Yeah, you can look up anything that I've looked at already today. Maybe it looks useful to you. Hit F1. They have great help. Go in here, look at help. I always hit F1 and then I go back of a level, right? I'm in the field definitions. I go back a level and it talks about subcontract claims form, talks about this. There's a lot of really good information right here on the help. Okay, any other questions? Feel free and unmute yourself and ask the questions verbally as well. If you need to, just kind of poke around on your side, ask what things you were going to ask. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, glad you could be here. Any other questions on change orders? Shannon would love to talk to you about offline about Procore integration. Here, that's a question for you guys. Maybe somebody who's how many of you guys are using Procore? You can just throw it in the chat. How many are using Procore, and are you using Procore for change orders, and are you using it for subcontract change orders? Because those are all very valid things. Procore integrations, like actually bringing that information in, is very difficult. It can be extremely painful, I would say. We are migrating to Teams fully implement document management. That's good. Go through the process of changing an interface change order. Oh, Doug, you have obviously been around the block. Let's do this. Let's do this. Good question. Really good question. Okay, so Doug has people in his organization that make mistakes, unlike other people. So they are probably a lot like me. And if they're a lot like me, then what they just did is they threw together a change order, and they went into this change order, and they were like, oh, yeah, $64,000. What's that? $67,000 sounds great. And they interfaced it. They were hunky-dory, and they sent that first bill out, and the owner came back and said, we actually approved that for $65,500, not $67,500. Very sorry. And then you realize that you screwed up and you already interfaced it over, and you're like, what do I do now? Well, a couple of things. I'll show you the wrong way to do it first. The wrong way to do it is to go into JC change orders. You can see I actually have that here in my change management folder. The wrong way to do it is to go into the JC change, go to grab my ACO, and just manually change this, 65,500. It's really tempting to do this, 65,500, because now that I've changed it here, this will actually change it on my billing, and I can just go forward from here. But this is lazy and sloppy and can lead to some serious confusion. So what I recommend doing instead is coming in here and deleting the change order from JC change orders. Gasp, I can hear you say. Don't delete things. Yes, you can delete it. Oh, detail records must, for the change order items, have to be deleted first. Okay, I'm going to come down here, delete this first. I'm going to delete the deleted grid items. Oh, it exists in my bill already. Oh, shoot. I have to go into my bill, all the way over to billings, go to JB progress billings, and I have to go to my change orders, and I have to delete my change order down here, and then I have to delete this change order here, and then close this. Now that it's deleted from here, now I can go back to my change management, JC change orders. Did I already have that open? I did. I don't need to open it twice. Now I can delete my item from JC change orders. That was the detail. Now I can delete the header. This is the fourth thing that I'm deleting. If you guys are counting, I am. And now I don't have it in JC anymore. I no longer have it in JC. I can go back to my PM approved change orders. And now on my ACO item number 2, I can go in and modify my amount. So I can go to 65,500 here. My pending change order still said 67,500. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not. Maybe you want to go all the way back to there. I'm going to say we can just go back to this side, 65,500. We're happy. We're good. I'm going to click ready for accounting again. Save this. Yes. Close that. PM interface. Validate. Approve my approved change order is there. Interface it over. And now I can go and add it to my bill. It is now back in here at 65,500 instead of 67,500. And the customer is no longer unhappy with me. And now, Doug, you can go and show those people who have made mistakes how to do that. So you have to delete it out of job cost and then reinterface it. Noreen, if needed, can you make a change to an existing ACO if necessary, such as unit price, etc.? Yes, in fact, I just did, right? I just showed that how you can make an existing change order change. Now you can also write a change order that changes a previous change order if you want. That gets a little bit meta. Again, if you have something, let's say you added a change order for 67 and they approved it, and they're like, then later they came and said, I want you to change this to, a 60,000. I would prefer, the way I would run my jobs is I would add another change order item on the bill and have it be a negative change order for 7,500. So they can see the original 67,500 and this negative 6,700, 7,500. So it comes out to 60,000 even. So still, we usually enter change orders to JC. Wondering if the PM pending change orders adds to JC original estimates when you interface it, or do you have to manually enter the cost and original estimates? Yes, it does add the cost when you interface it, and I don't recommend that you would manually enter that cost and original estimates because it's not original. This is by definition not original. So don't enter it in original estimates. Enter it on the PM change order, approve it, and then interface it. Don't enter that cost as the on the PM. I'm sorry, in the original estimate on the job phase itself. And yes, it will end up in JC change orders anyway. So I do see a lot of people just going in directly into JC change orders and entering them there. That's usually the case. When I see that, I know that the project managers aren't using the system. It's the accountants that are doing the work for the project managers. And I like to see the project managers enter it in and be responsible for getting it in there. Usually if you have the project management staff, or at least operations staff, entering things in there, that you get it sooner and it shows up on the WIP sooner. You have better information throughout. Otherwise, the accountants are doing it like after the fact, like when you receive an invoice. Sorry, when you're trying to reconcile the cash account and the money you received, it doesn't match up to what you have in the billing because they approved a change order and paid you for it. So frustrating. Doug, what adds the change order to JC changes? So as soon as I click PM interface, it will add it to JC change orders. So in here, when I had hit validate and I hit interface here, when I hit interface button, it will automatically show up in JC change orders. Okay. Any other questions? And we are officially done with the webinar, but I can stick around for a little bit of time and answer any questions. You bet, Rena. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Sierra. Thanks, Shannon. Glad it was helpful. Thanks, Noreen, and thanks for the great questions, Noreen. Bet, Mike. Oh, look at that. I get a gift from Doug. All right, well, we'll wrap it up with no more questions. And if you guys have any further questions, feel free and contact Ryan. Would be the best one to contact here in our office, Ryan Kelsey. Just remember, too, we also offer a bunch of other things. We've been having a lot of fun with our full-service payroll solution. So we've been doing a lot of in-house processing of payroll for people. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, or if you're interested in just getting some payroll training, that's something that we've been doing quite a bit of as well. So we'd love to talk to you about that. Thank you, Ania. Good to see you. And Ryan. Oh, Estelle, you have a question here. So overall, it's better to go through the PM pending change orders than JC for the process. Yes, I recommend going through PM pending change orders rather than going directly into JC. Note that it is a few more steps. And so if the only users of the change order are accounting, then it is acceptable to go into JC change orders directly. But I highly recommend that you use the pending change orders and have the project management staff involved in that. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for the kind words. You bet, Gustavo. Yep, thanks, Tyrell. Thanks for coming. Okay, did I miss any questions earlier? I think I got them all. I guess I didn't show the internal versus external, but that I think was cleared up in the whiteboard section. All right. Thanks, Allie. Thanks, the fake Josh. That's really golfing. I'm glad you guys made it. All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off now. Everybody have a wonderful day and a Merry Christmas.